behold Pot of Greed and Nectar of the Gods. Two very similar cards. In fact, similar might be a massive underplay. These cards represent the same exact effect with the same exact text. Draw 2 cards. However, one of these cards, Pot of Greed, is one of the most insanely value-producing cards that exists in its game, and the other is almost never played and not taken seriously. Why is that? That is because these 2 cards exist in completely different contexts. We don't have to look far to understand this, because in Uno, draw 2 is not an advantage, it is a devastating attack spell. And that is why today I'm going to present to you why Ambrosia is actually Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed is crazy in Yu-Gi-Oh! Only because of its context. Drawing cards in other games ranges anywhere from decent, such as in Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, to a devastating attack like we were talking about in Uno. So to understand the context, we need to create some parameters with which we can look at these things. And how are we going to look at these things? With these following parameters. Costs, which are the resources you have to pay to achieve things in the game. Action economy, which is the limit on the number of turns you can take when you have priority. Life, which is a special resource pile that makes you lose the game if it goes to 0. And game pieces, which represent your avatars within the world. Now, to help understand this series of criteria we're going to be using, let's look at a silly example in chess. In chess, costs don't really exist. Your action economy is fixed to 1 move per turn. Your life is actually the same as the game pieces. Mostly the king, but all of your game pieces kind of represent life because they tick down your abilities to protect the king. And this is why chess can generate some interesting game states, because you have to make choices about the game pieces you're giving up in the progress towards taking out your opponent without losing so much that you get taken out yourself. Now, let's look at the context of Yu-Gi-Oh! In Yu-Gi-Oh!, cards are everything. Well, almost everything. They're everything except your life. The cards themselves are, of course, the game pieces. Costs in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are technically non-existent, but the costs that are put on cards always involve other cards. You're discarding, sending something to the graveyard, tributing something, merging cards together to make another card. Every once in a while you pay some life points, but that's basically considered free. An action economy in Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, I mean, you are limited to 1 normal summon per turn, but it's been a long time since that's been considered a limit. Really, the upper bound in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the number of cards you have in your hand, so your action economy is once again just the cards you hold. So let's analyze Pot of Greed a little bit. To play Pot of Greed, you're losing a game piece. You are using that 1 card. But cards are also your action economy and your costs, like we just talked about. So you're losing 1 of your resources that could have been a discard for something else, and you're giving up 1 of your actions to cash in on this draw 2 cards. Now, for paying out these -1s, you get 2 additional game pieces. You get 2 more cards in hand. But cards are also costs and action economy in this game, which means you're also getting +2 resources to do moves with and +2 potential actions on your turn. We do a little math and we see that this is overall, in this framework, a +3. You're getting +3 value on this 1 resource you spent. Now that is really good value for something that is really just a freebie that has no restrictions and can be done whenever. Now let's look at Nectar of the Gods context. In Elestrals, there's a lot of shared things like in Yu-Gi-Oh, but it pivots off a different point. Game pieces are kind of their own thing. In Elestrals, you have the cards you draw and get on the board. But everything else in Elestrals is your spirit deck, the 20 spirits you get to play the game and pay for cards. The spirit deck is obviously your costs. Every card you play has some enchantment cost you have to pay from the spirit deck. But the spirit deck is also your life. If your spirit deck hits -1, so to speak, then you lose the game. It is your life resource, and it is also the measure of your action economy. When you start a game of Elestrals, you effectively get 20 actions because each action in the game costs at least 1 spirit, essentially. So while you do have a normal action limit in Elestrals of 1 per turn, there's lots of cards and effects that simply use spirits and don't get constrained by that normal action, which means the upper bound of your action economy, both on any given turn and the game as a whole, is the number of spirits in your spirit deck. So now, with this understanding of the context, let's analyze Nectar of the Gods. Nectar of the Gods is -1 game piece and -2 for costs because you have to pay the 2 spirit enchanting cost of the card. But the costs are also your life. And the costs are also the upper bound on your action economy. That's a whole lot of red for playing Nectar of the Gods. You're going to get 2 additional game pieces, but you're lowering your life and you're lowering the number of actions you can take on future turns. If we mush all of these together for the math, that's a -5. That's way worse than Pot of Greed. It's such a big negative that you are giving yourself for getting 2 additional game pieces. So Nectar of the Gods is not cracked out as all it's meant to be just because it has the same text on it as Pot of Greed. But Elestrals is not starving for powerful cards because Ambrosia exists. For 1 spirit enchantment cost, you get to return 3 spirits to your spirit deck from the underworld. Bringing the context back into the picture, we're going -1 on game pieces and -1 on costs, which is also -1 on life and -1 on action economy because costs, action limits, and life are all the same thing in Elestrals. To get our +3 life, which you guessed it, means +3 actions and +3 life, which merges together for a big, beautiful +5. It is the +5 to Nectar of Gods -5, and in some ways might be better than Pot of Greed in the context of Elestrals. Ambrosia is a powerful card that is at 3 in basically every Elestrals deck besides some edge cases, Blistrix. And it's because of all of the value it generates. Elestral players can often be caught saying that they lost a game because their opponent saw more Ambrosia than them. It lets you live longer, take more actions, and have more opportunities for winning the game, which is what card games is all about. And that is why Ambrosia is Pot of Greed. If you enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you'll like this one over here. If you enjoyed it and you're not subscribed yet, consider subscribing. It's free. Leave a comment below about what cards you think are super powerful in Elestrals and should be in every deck. Are you a Nectar of the Gods enjoyer? Sound off below. I do still put Nectar of the Gods in the deck. I often do not take my own advice. And that's okay. We're here to have fun. Happy clashing and casting all. I'll see you in the next one.